As migrant arrivals pick up ahead of summer, Greece is taking a harder line defending Europe's southern border against illegal migration. The Greek government says it has little choice given a lack of support from the rest of the continent. NTD's Joanne Robson brings us this report.
Greece was the front line of Europe's migration crisis in 2015 when 1 million refugees from Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan landed. Since then, the number of arrivals has reduced, but Greece says it's still shouldering much of the burden. The country's migration minister told the Reuters news agency that his government is taking a tougher approach so that it doesn't send the wrong message and incentivise people to come.
Our policy is strict but fair. And we need to make sure that the camps operate with rules, and that protects, first of all, those living in the camps. For these people, it's their temporary house, it protects staff, it protects local communities.
The government has built concrete fences around migrant camps. It's also planning to build closed-type facilities on 2 offshore islands. Greece has been pushing other EU countries to reform EU migration rules. While EU funds are easing some of the burden, the country complains that there has been a lack of solidarity.
But we still feel we're alone. Greece, Italy, Spain, Malta and Cyprus, the 5 Mediterranean countries, in tackling the pressure from migration.
Earlier this month, Greece designated Turkey a safe country for asylum seekers, making it harder for their asylum requests to be approved. The migration minister said Greece grants asylum to qualified applicants, but doesn't want to be taken advantage of by human smugglers.
We don't want to be the gateway to Europe for the smuggling networks. We don't want to be the gateway for millions of people to enter the European Union through Greece and end up in all the member states of the European Union.
The government says its policies are bearing fruit and the flow of migrants has declined. But aid groups have been critical, saying the containment policies hurt people already traumatised by war and conflict.
This obsession with deterrence and the obsession of control and at the same time zero investment in integration, it's only causing pain and nothing else.
As the situation in the Middle East remains unstable and NATO forces prepare to withdraw from Afghanistan, migration will continue to be a major problem facing Europe. Joanne Robson, NTD News.
Mountain air, panoramic views and a remote setting. Some patients in Switzerland suffering from the chronic impact of COVID-19 are receiving care where once wealthy Europeans recovered from tuberculosis. NTD's Eddie Aitken has more on the story.
Swiss mountain sanatoriums with their fresh air and sunlight once cured tuberculosis patients from across Europe, starting in the 19th century. Now, some are reinventing themselves to stay relevant. They take in patients suffering from the lingering effects of COVID-19. More and more so-called long COVID patients are coming for rehabilitation there.
COVID took a little part of my lung and a big part of my brain.
He said a mental fog left him unable to work.
I was not capable to read anything, not even watching TV. I got a serious problem also with breathing, with breathing. Walking upstairs 2 levels, completely down.
The World Health Organization fears long COVID may burden health systems for years to come. The medical director of Clinic Vault said proper rehabilitation can succeed anywhere, but his clinic's remote setting may offer extra respite.
So this environment here with woods and ways to go around the clinic really helps them to get on the way back to normality.
A 6-week stay at the clinic costs up to £20,000. Switzerland's private health insurance system in most cases covers the bill for residential therapy. Britain relies largely on outpatient care for their long COVID rehab. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
A Spanish inventor found an innovative way to help people with missing limbs. He uses 3D printers to create tailor-made prosthetic arms and gives them away for free. NTD's Eddie Aitken brings us this report.
8-year-old Juan was born without the lower part of his left arm. Recently, he received his first prosthesis. Juan was thrilled.
It's going to help me pick up things like toys, like pillows, and things like that.
The arm comes from a Madrid-based organization that uses 3D printers to create tailor-made prostheses. It then donates them to people around the world. The founder is a former toy designer with a passion for 3D printing. He started tinkering with prostheses as a hobby. In 2017, he then delivered some arms to Kenya. That was a spark to start Ayúdame 3D, which means Help Me 3D in Spanish. The 5 arms that I took for the people worked so well and so perfectly that I said to myself, how can I just stop here? 4 years later, it has grown into an international entity that delivers 200 to 250 arms a year all over the world, always free of charge and to anybody who requests one. When we send the package, it's very impersonal, but when we hand it over personally, it impacts us a lot. We have cases here in Spain, for example, 2 women that lost both legs and both arms, and thanks to our very light and very easy to use devices, they have had a second chance in life. Martinez says each arm costs a tiny fraction of conventionally made prostheses, which can cost up to £30,000. He says his goal is to deliver to twice as many countries next year. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Ikea has to pay a fine of £860,000 after being found guilty of spying on workers in France. The retailer's French subsidiary was accused of paying private investigators to obtain information on current and prospective employees. He denied any wrongdoing during the trial following the verdict. Ikea said these practices undermine the company's values. It has since implemented measures to prevent them from happening again. Elon Musk says Tesla might consider allowing Bitcoin transactions again, but only if miners use cleaner energy. NTD's Patrick Hayden takes a look at energy alternatives.
Elon Musk says Tesla may consider using Bitcoin transactions again in the future. That's if cleaner sources of energy are used to mine the crypto. We asked a crypto energy specialist about these concerns and Tesla's recent U-turn.
I don't believe that they thought through this investment as thoroughly as they should have. I mean, as a clean energy company, the environmental, how could they not have thought about the environmental impact of Bitcoin? And
Kraft says people are mostly concerned about coal being used for Bitcoin mining. He says there are better options.
For example, there are natural gas extraction sites that have wasteful emissions of resources, and there are companies right now that are setting up mining rigs to use those to use that energy waste.
He says with China's crypto crackdown, mining is going to flourish elsewhere.
Texas just passed a new law. I think they're an interesting jurisdiction with cheap energy.
And some countries are considering using geothermal energy.
You have El Salvador's president who announced that they'll be building clean energy Bitcoin mining facilities with their volcanoes or power from their volcanoes.
He says wherever governments offer subsidies, that's where miners will go. And as well as cleaner energy, he says a more energy-efficient way of generating cryptocurrencies will help. It's called proof of stake, and some say for cryptocurrencies like Ether, it will reduce energy consumption by 99%. But he says that shift for Bitcoin is unlikely to ever happen. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
Stunning aerial views of some of Paris's most iconic monuments have been put on hold. New restrictions are causing a rift between drone operators and Parisian authorities. NTD's Joanne Robson has the story.
The breathtaking Eiffel Tower, the solemn Arc de Triomphe. Professional drone operators say police have been systematically rejecting requests to fly over the French capital to gather images of these national symbols. Last Thursday, drone operator and instructor Xavier Dupuy had to settle for a field in Marc outside Paris to hold a training session.
5 operations turned down, around €15,000 in earnings lost. I'm not the only one who has seen operations refused. Being that I manage a company of 8,200 people, I know that all people who want to take photos and videos and aerial photos in Paris are systematically turned down.
Local authorities have declined to comment on the ban. Paris is classified as a no-fly zone for drones by law, but drone operators have been allowed to fly within the city in recent years as long as they submit a formal request to police. In late February, 30 professional drone operators sent a letter to authorities demanding they lift the ban.
Since January 1st, we can no longer fly drones over central Paris, which means we can no longer hold operations. And for operators, some normally work only within Paris, and we're almost part of that group. And that means that we can no longer fly, we can no longer work, we can no longer produce, we can no longer have operations.
These operators make their living shooting footage for films, commercial ads and documentaries. The dispute follows a decision made in late December 2020 by France's State Council. The body ruled against an article in a controversial security bill. If authorised, it would allow police to use drones as surveillance measures during public gatherings and protests.
It's a perverse effect and an absolute scandal for the prefecture, because they themselves cannot use drones to spy on protesters, to be intrusive, as declared by the Constitutional Council. And that's why the Constitutional Council rejected this use of drones as it is.
The government introduced the bill to increase its surveillance capabilities in response to Islamic radicalism. That's including the murder of a French teacher who had used caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad during a lesson. In May, the country's Constitutional Council rejected the bill, deeming it intrusive to people's privacy. Joanne Robson, NTD News.
Now, if you're watching on Sky Channel 190 or Freeview 271, we have some news for you. For Monday, 21st of June, NTD UK News will broadcast at 9 p.m. That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees.